parts. But I'm so excited to have you here, Olga. Olga, I found you on Instagram recently, honestly, and have absolutely done a deep dive into your content. Have loved everything you've been sharing about. And like I was just saying to you, as a woman, I love moving my home around, like situating things differently. And if there's a way, like you talk about, that I can orient my home to call in more love, more abundance, more creativity, I am 100% there. And I know that all my listeners are there. So I can't wait to hear more about it today. So I'd love to start out just hearing a little bit about you. How would you articulate like what you do, how you do it, what your job is essentially?
Mhm. Well, it took me many years to come to what I do. I used to be an editor at
Hmm.
design magazines. I was at Domino magazine. I was at House Beautiful magazine. I worked at Elle Decor. Like I've worked on the whole gamut of like just design, beauty, editorial. So there's that piece, and then there's the spiritual piece of like how do we go deeper than just beauty and make our homes magnetic?
Yeah.
You know, a home that actually is not only beautiful, but calls in, invokes, and intentionally magnetizes that which you actually want to magnetize rather than working against you, meaning you want something in your life, but your home is actually aligned or broadcasting a completely different message.
Mm.
So the way I got into this is through in the beauty space. Like I was creating beautiful homes. I was photographing beautiful homes all over the world for magazine editorial. And then I would speak to the homeowners. And a lot of these homes were really beautifully designed, but the homeowners weren't actually stepping into the kind of life that they wanted. They had just spent a lot of money hiring an expensive interior designer to create the home of their dreams, but they were still circling in the same I'm not having this loop, or I want this loop. It's been many years and I still don't have a boyfriend, or I still don't have, the thing that I want.
Yeah.
And I realized that there was a disconnect between the beauty of their home and what it is they want in their lives. There was like the intentionality wasn't there,
Right.
and the deeper questions were not being asked.
Mm.
So I got into this in order to bring that conversation into awareness.
Wow. I love that so much. So when you say like a home is kind of resisting, let's say like love, how can you see that in your profession? Like in what ways do you see that? Is it where things are placed? Like lighting, like everything? Like can you kind of dive into for love specifically where you see kind of incongruencies?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So when you're single, you're designing for a single person. You're designing for the you that's living in the home, oftentimes alone, sometimes with roommates, but you're not designing a home that's for partnership.
Yeah.
So one of the golden keys, in my belief, of bringing partnership or using your home to invite partnership is designing as if the partnership is already happening,
Mm.
right? Rather that it's somewhere far away from you, or even just not happening in the future. You design as if that partner is there and you guys are living together.
Yeah.
So that means, and this is the classic thing, don't put your bed in a corner.
Right. I've
You
heard that
need
one.
to imagine, I mean, this is so simple, but you know, we make this mistake. We do this because we want more space. Sometimes
Right.
you have a small bedroom, and
Right.
of course, then you have more space to get dressed or to do your yoga or whatever it is that you do in there. If you put your bed in a corner, don't do that, because if the partner was already living with you, he wouldn't be, or she wouldn't be, crawling over you to
Right.
like
Get
get
to
to their
bed.
spot,
Yeah.
right? So you want to move the bed in the center. You want to have two matching nightstands, two matching lamps. You want to create a feeling of union, of merging,
Yeah.
of like connection in your home. Don't buy a teeny weeny postage stamp rug, because that doesn't unify the furniture, right?
Yeah.
We so many of us have rugs that are too small for
Mm,
our homes, for our rooms. They don't fit like 2/3 under the entire bed. And you want to have, like, especially in the bedroom, a rug that's very sensual, so that when you're walking with your bare feet, that the bottoms of your feet are getting like tickled and massaged and feeling luxurious,
mhm.
rather than, for example, sisal. And I see a lot of designers putting sisal rugs in their bedrooms, and they're inexpensive, and sisal looks good, but it's not sensual. It's
Yeah,
not a
it's not like that, like
sensual
itchy. I'm
material.
not sure what fabric that is.
Yeah, that, or jute, it's like natural fiber
Oh, okay, yeah.
rugs. These are terms that like designers use, and you'll see in the industry: sisal, jute, raffia, like those kinds of
Yeah,
woven material rugs. So you want to have like a more sensual, thicker pile rug in your bedroom, so that like the bottoms of your feet are really like feeling the ground, and you feel really grounded,
yeah,
right? You want to be grounded and centered in your bedroom.
yeah.
Sheets. You
Hmm.
want to have sheets that are different textures, mix different kinds of sheets with different pillows, create a sensual bed. That's
Yeah.
one thing I teach, is like bed styling, so
Mm.
that when you walk in, it's not like a million throw pillows, but it's really succinct,
Yeah.
precise, and beautiful. I love having a long rectangular bolster that unites the two sides of the bed,
Mm.
right? We're looking for subconscious union codes in
Yeah.
the bedroom.
Mm, that's beautiful. Do you think like also leaving space in like a drawer, like space in your nightstand, like leaving space like for if a woman is listening to this and she's like wanting to call in love, do you think that that matters or do you think it's just having the furniture there?
If you can leave space, of course, that's all the better.
Yeah.
Feng Shui really speaks about this, to
Right.
leave space for your partner to come in.
Yeah.
You Personally, I feel like if you have the space, sure, leave it. If you don't have the space, leave symbolic space. You don't have to
Yeah.
like leave half your closet,
Right.
but leave
You know that you
symbolic
could.
space.
Yeah.
Right. Like put a water carafe next to the person's side. Think about, what kind of man, woman, what kind of partner am I wanting to invoke? Like, begin to feel them.
Yeah.
What would they like? Like, what kind of water glass would they want to drink
Yeah.
from? I always love choosing pieces like a thick, chunky water glass. Like, I want it to feel like the person that I'm calling into my life.
Yeah.
I want that water glass to be evocative of that person.
Right.
That intentionality begins to be magnetic, and it gets even more magnetic if you make one move, two moves, three moves with that same intentionality. You're beginning to weave a web,
Yeah.
right?
Create a story.
Calling it in a magnetic web.
Mm. That's so beautiful. I'm already like planning how I'm going to change my bedroom right now. I already love textures so much, just being like a feminine being, like having like velvet and silk and like linen and like different feelings of different textures impacts me so much, especially because I work from home, I like spend a lot of time at home. I'm definitely a homebody. So that's why I was so excited to chat with you. I'm like, this is just going to be so fun. So when we think about a lot of my listeners as well have their own businesses, are working from home, maybe have their office at home, maybe we could start shifting into like, how do you bring in, and maybe it's not even just your office, like, and maybe love isn't just the bedroom too. Is there ways where you bring in essences of what you're trying to cultivate within your life it throughout your whole home? And what does that look like?
Yeah, yeah. This is a very layered and beautiful
I'm
topic.
sure.
Um, So what we're looking to do is really get precise in what it is that we're calling it,
Mhm.
right? I always tell my clients, create like a seed sentence,
Hmm.
right? Rather, like, women tend to like have these long paragraphs, and I want
Yeah.
this, and I want this, I want this, I desire that, you know, and that's, of course, we all desire everything and so much, and there's nothing wrong with that. But when we're designing, where we want to create like precise intentionality so that it is effective.
Okay.
So create a sentence. Like, what is it that you would like? And get very specific. So that's number one. So it's a 4-step process that I work.
Okay.
So that is number one. Create a succinct, precise seed sentence for what it is you're wanting to call in through different rooms, right? So that's number one. Then begin to see your home through a stranger's eyes. Like, as like a lot of people have scarcity, even though they complain about scarcity or lack of creativity or lack of motivation or whatever it is that is your biggest complaint, or that you're kind of looping around in your life. Begin to see your home through a stranger's eyes and see where in fact you've created the same situation in your home. Like, for example, I oftentimes complain about overwhelm. I'm a mom. I have 2 small kids. I'm often overwhelmed. And if someone asked me what my biggest complaint is in my life right now, I would say that not enough time, and the feeling of being overwhelmed. And you can see it even with a designer. In my home, there's like some chaos. There's like piles. There's like, the home is overwhelmed. So the
Yeah.
home begins to be a personification of your biggest complaint. But knowing that, you want to start really supporting yourself. So I support myself with closed door storage rather than like open door
Open,
storage,
yeah.
where I have to see all my overwhelmed, piles,
Yeah.
like baskets, boxes. Like, I really begin to solve for those things.
Yeah.
So if you're wanting more abundance, but you are neglecting yourself in
Yeah.
parts of your home, there are things that don't feel like you want to feel. They
Yeah.
feel more like the you that you're trying to get to step away from.
Yeah.
That is one thing you want to really notice. Where am I neglecting myself?
Yeah.
And where do outdated identities live with me in my home? Where am I carrying around this like thing that I got from my best friend's mom 10 years ago that I never really liked, but it's kind of there because it, you know, how many of those things are you holding on to? And does that represent the abundance that you want to step into? So
Yeah.
you want to dissolve all
Mhm.
of that, right?
Yeah.
Dissolving is a massive part of this process. So step one, seed sentence, clear seed sentence.
Mhm.
Step two, seeing your home through a stranger's eyes and seeing all the places where your home is actually a reflection of your biggest complaint.
Yeah.
Step three is dissolving that, which is letting it go. This goes beyond decluttering.
Yeah.
Decluttering is the top layer. This is actually dissolving outdated identities
Yeah.
that you are tolerating, that you're living with.
Mhm.
That's step three. And step four is begin one by one to buy things. Like, it could be just a few things at the beginning that
Yeah.
feel the way you want to feel,
Right.
that feel the way that seed sentence feels. So when you read that seed sentence, your body should light up.
Yeah.
When you see that object that represents that seed sentence, your body should light up.
Yeah.
That's how you know.
Mm. It's so beautiful. And I love how you simplified it into steps. I appreciate that a lot. I feel like that makes it so much easier and more attainable, and also gives us some actionable steps to like walk away from this conversation and be like, okay, how can I do this in my home? And I also love what you said about old identities, because I think that we can all relate to, I mean, books on my bookshelf that I'm like, oh, that was from a past version of myself. Probably won't read it again, get rid of it. Clothes in the closet. I feel like that's a big one. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and also just having that intentionality that we bring into every aspect of our home, and realizing how much our home impacts us, and not just thinking that, oh, it's just a part of my life. It actually is a reflection of what's going on internally, and what intentions we're setting in our day to day, and what we're calling in, and just who we are in the present moment. I think that I read something recently that was like, if you want to get to know someone, look at their closet. Like, that will tell you like their mental state. And I've always felt that way, like, especially like dating, meeting new people, meeting new friends, like sitting in their car, sitting in their house and being like, okay, are there piles of things everywhere? Is it really tidy? Because I feel like a lot of the times the environment that someone is in really does dictate their internal frame. Uh,
Mhm.
so kind of what you said about like walk into your home, look at it as if you were an absolute stranger. What a paradigm shift.
Mhm. Massive. And if
Yeah.
you can't do it for yourself, ask a friend to do it. And they
Yeah.
have to be honest.
Mhm.
Like you have to be prepared to receive critique because that's how you grow and change.
Yeah.
Like, that's how a lot of times we don't want to see it. And
Mhm.
that's why we live in our homes, and a lot of times we're blind to
Yeah.
what we're actually living with
Mhm.
and how we are abandoning ourselves.
Yeah. We get so used to it.
Mhm.
So I know
Mhm.
there's like a lot of energy to just objects, like we kind of talked about, everything kind of represents something. Is it the future version of yourself? Is it the past version of yourself? Is there also something to be said about how things are oriented in a home, like westward facing, northern facing, you know what I mean? Like these sorts of feng shui concepts what do you really carry with you in your practice there?
I don't necessarily work with those
Okay.
concepts, honestly, myself. And I have received feng shui, and I just find it pretty confusing personally of all the Northwest and all the corners
Right.
and all the
A lot.
things. So I really work with psychology. That's like I created a more you know, a different kind of paradigm of my work called spatial alchemy, and it's based on like the Kabbalah and the Western alchemical esoteric principles, but it's very simple. It's like, that those 4 steps, and I'm writing a book about that right now.
Oh, oh
So
my God.
that, yeah, it's going to be published in 2025.
Can't wait to
Um,
read it.
it's called Spatial Alchemy, and it's really about how the intersection of your home, your psyche, and your manifestation. So that, like, your home is really stylish and beautiful, but it's also magnetic, not only beautiful. And
Love.
I personally don't work with all the corners, but I feel like you orient your furniture based on the room and based on what
Right.
you want to do.
Right.
Unifying, integrating rooms visually, repeating things, like I call this triangulation, when you like repeat a color or repeat a theme that reinforces the theme. So I kind of work from those spaces more as a
Okay.
designer.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. When you said the seating, so step one is create that seating sentence. I did want to kind of follow up with that. Do you mean per room or do you mean for your whole home you have one?
For your life.
Okay.
Like, what, it's not
One
even per room,
overarching.
although you could decide which room, like, exemplifies that sentence the
Right.
most. For example, if you're working with love, you look to your bedroom first,
Right.
although really your whole home
Yeah.
could be calling in love,
Right.
you know? So if your seed sentence is like, I want to experience an eros drenched partnership in my life that makes me feel alive. So I
Mhm.
just made that up. Say that's what you
Beautiful. It was beautiful.
um like tons of eros, tons of life, and partnership. Then you start thinking of, okay, I want eros. So how do I bring eros into my home so
Yeah.
that it's already happening, so that it's not like one day I will have eros if I do all the steps or if I'm lucky. No, how do we have eros now?
Yeah.
So how do you brush your teeth? What does your water glass look like? I
Yeah.
always say, when you have that seed sentence, look to your mundane activities first, the ones that you repeat over and over
Yeah.
again, because they contain alchemical gold.
Mhm.
So, like, how are you brushing your teeth? What does your water glass look like by your bedside? What do your napkins look like? Are you using paper towels? When
Yeah.
you want eros drenched and you're wiping your beautiful lips with paper towels, like smearing them across your face while you're rushing off to the next thing,
Yeah.
that's not eros drenched. You want to get some beautiful cloth napkins that your hands just kind of they love, and you kind of gently wipe your face. You want to like treat yourself as if you were your own arrows drenched lover,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
That is what calls it in, because it's already happening, and the law of attraction is like attracts like.
Right. And even just the sensory experience, I'm sure, is also just more shifting you into your yin, like shifting you into your feminine essence, which is so much of what I get to do with my business, which I was like, I knew there would be overlap here of really bringing you into your feminine essence via your environment.
Mm-hmm. It's such like, in terms of feminine essence, like the keeper of the hearth
Right.
and the keeper of the home is such a feminine practice. Even if you're a man, it touches the feminine part of your masculinity, if that is what you're interested in. It's touching that. And having a partner or a potential partner coming into that atmosphere that you've cultivated,
Yeah.
they feel the thing that you've cultivated. So they're aware of your glasses and your cutlery and all of these things. And these things don't have to be expensive. They have to be intentional. And that's the difference that I really want your listeners to feel. It's
Yeah.
not about maxing out your credit card, buying fancy things because you want to bring in abundance. It's about bringing the intention in. You could buy vintage things. You could buy things on Facebook Marketplace.
Right.
It's really about how you cultivate and curate an environment that exudes the quality that you want to anchor in your life.
Mhm. Mhm. So much intentionality to
Mhm.
everything. Yeah. What do you feel like the most common imbalances we could say are that you see with your clients in their homes?
So, and I was making this mistake too. We are a lot of times especially if they're working from home, you want to see what the desk feels like, the desks that you're working off of.
Okay.
I had a desk that was many little skinny legs. I had designed it for a press event, and it
Okay.
had many little skinny legs going into different directions, like more than four. Because it was like
Okay.
this arty thing that I had made that caused a big splash in New York City for this funky press event. I was like, ooh, I'm going to work on top of it. I was this like hipster Brooklyn girl. And it worked. It worked for when I was in that hipster Brooklyn phase of my business. But as I kind of settled into moving from being a freelancer to an entrepreneur, that's a big shift,
Mm,
right? Because as an entrepreneur, we're bringing in the Empress codes.
yeah.
So you want to look and see if your desk is on these like skinny, rickety legs.
Okay.
You want these thick, grounded, solid legs. You want your desk to feel like your business wants to feel. And your chair, your desk chair. A lot of people are sitting on either their old corporate desk chair or
Yeah.
some kind of hand-me-down, not intentional chair. Your chair is your throne, right? Most of us, unless we're actively like cooking or standing, for our jobs,
Yeah.
we are sitting at the computer for our work.
Right.
So we're in that chair for 8 hours. So you
Yeah.
want to make sure that that chair is solid, that chair isn't a hand-me-down. You want to like really make sure that it is your throne.
Yeah.
What you're looking towards in your office should be a representation of a vision board. It doesn't actually have to be a vision board with little pins of
Yeah.
little things. Actually, I don't necessarily always recommend that, because that starts to look messy. So you're
Yeah.
often looking at a big fat mess, and you can't really even see the images anyway because they're far away from you. I would say create something that feels regal across from you, so that you're really looking at Empress codes if that's what you want in your business. If you want to grow your business, if you want a feminine kind of business, make sure that it's feminine. There are round shapes, there's softness, there's living things, there's plants, there's that it feels like the kind of business that you want to lead.
Yeah.
What's in back of you is your Zoom stage. Right now, I'm in a temporary office. So
Okay.
it is painful because I used to actually have like a very regal kind of setup
Cool.
behind me in my real
Yeah.
office. And this is like a little temporary space that I've been in for 2 months.
Okay.
And I've created it in the best way possible. It's a little hard with the
Oh, it's
wall.
beautiful. I think you did amazing.
It's a little
Yeah.
hard with this funny wall, which actually is kind of hanging over my head. I
Yeah.
would not suggest it. I wouldn't suggest going into an attic with the kind of wall that I'm sitting at. But it really affects your business. I can tell because it really affected my business when I was in my beautiful office space that I had been living in for 4 years. It was so like there was an effortlessness. And when I been bouncing around from space to space while I'm building my dream home, it's been a lot harder
Yeah.
because your space really affects you. So what's behind you is how the world perceives you. So
Mm.
if you're on an online business, you really want to curate that.
Yeah. Well, that makes a lot of, I mean, we're in my office right now.
Mm-hmm.
But I do feel like I'm like, as I'm listening, I really do need to clean up my desk situation because I focus on what people see, but what's in, I actually look into my living room. What do you think about that?
Well, it depends what your living room looks like.
Okay. That
What are
makes
you
sense.
actually seeing? You'd have to turn your computer around so I can see it, and then
Yeah.
I'd be able to give you some very specific tips and
Oh,
pointers.
let's do it. Let's just do it. I will turn the camera
Mhm.
around. So that big window right there, my
Mhm.
light, and then here's my living room.
Mhm.
Can
Mhm.
you see it?
Okay. Okay. So basically what I'm seeing
Yes,
is a mirror right across from you, a gold mirror,
that is
and
correct.
then a TV, a TV that looks about like 30 inches wide on a bookshelf that's 30 inches wide.
Yep.
So what like, I feel like you could go much more regal.
Okay. I want to.
Like scale is a big deal when you're wanting to build and grow and expand.
Okay.
Like your bookshelf looks like something you would have had maybe in your mid 20s,
Yeah.
like it's
Oh,
kind of
well,
like
because I've had it since I was a kid.
it feels that way. It
Yeah.
feels like that's the first thing that I would release. I
Okay.
would put, I would create a table, a skirted table that's long, wider, like
Okay.
quite a bit wider, so that your TV doesn't feel like it's about to fall off. It's
Okay.
literally the same size as
That's
your
the same
book,
size.
right? And you want your TV to not be your focal point, and the way that you do that is maybe it's like wallpapering the wall behind the TV, painting it a color. And if you're a renter, there are peel and stick wallpapers that you can
Yeah.
use. You want to make it feel rich. If
Yeah.
you don't want to do a color on the wall, I would do a wider shelf and do a fabric over it, like a skirted table. And you could
Okay.
get a workman to like knock that together for you. It could be just plywood underneath. You don't have to see your books or your magazines. It could be
Yeah.
tons of storage under there.
Right.
Put your TV there and then put all kinds of art. Create a gallery wall so that the
Yeah.
TV isn't the main thing that you're looking at,
Yeah.
because it feels like it could be like more juicy and abundant in there. Like with Restoring Eve, it's
Right.
all about the Eden codes.
Yeah.
Eden is heaven on earth. That's what Eve, we're restoring her to Eden,
Right.
right?
Mhm.
So you want to like get fecund, like juicy, and like lots of art of like paradise, of all kinds of like green, like yummy
Jungle.
things, because it
Mhm.
feels very black and white and
Yeah,
monotonous there.
it is.
So that's what I would say to you. Really
Okay.
dial up the wealth codes.
Okay. I love that a lot. I wrote down on my little notepad when you were talking Empress codes because I loved that word, that term, I think is so beautiful, especially for the office space. So that's really just like the juiciness, right? What you're wanting to call in. So I like how you even use the word scale when you're like, oh, you want to scale your business, you should probably like scale your furniture. Like you don't want to have like this like puny little piece of furniture, right?
Yeah, it needs to really fill that wall. And
Yeah.
I'm not seeing the whole entire room,
Yeah.
but I would say that your TV needs to be at least 1/3 the width of the piece of furniture that it sits
Okay.
on, so that it's like it's not teetering and
Right.
it's not feeling like, am I being held? I'm not sure. Is something holding me? Maybe. That's what it feels like
Yeah.
when I look at it. Like you want it to be wider, a little wider, so that you
Okay.
could put beautiful objets. Like maybe it's like 2 lamps if you want partnership. I don't know your situation, but even if you have partnership and you want
Yeah.
to reinforce the partnership,
Mm.
do pairs of things, symmetry,
Mm.
right? On
Okay.
either side of the
Other
TV,
side. Yeah.
like get 2 beautiful lamps with not white shades, but like fabric shades that are
Mm.
colored.
Yeah.
Maybe it's like a rich deep red or an orange, and then you turn them on, and they might be even on a dimmer switch, so they can cast a soft light. Lighting is important. See how you're starting to weave like that juicy sexiness into your
Right.
room.
Right. Oh, that makes sense. I feel like that's already sort of been shifting for me. I've been like very attracted to jewel tones for
Mm-hmm.
everything. I also think it's just, yeah, it's very much what I've been attracted to recently, but I think it's that juiciness, right? Like the Empress codes, like this stronger essence. Cause I feel like a lot of our world right now is like beige. Like
Mm-hmm.
everyone's doing the white, modern, beige, like no color. And
Mm-hmm.
I've been missing it.
Mm-hmm. I think you need to give it to yourself, you
Yeah.
know?
What do you think about that? Like that's kind of, I don't know if it's still trending, but I know it certainly has been for a while, that like clean girl aesthetic with the interior of like the white and the beige. Like I'd love to hear your feedback on maybe what that's doing energetically to us in our homes.
See, the thing is, many people are attracted to that for 2 reasons, the white, the beige. A, they're like afraid of making a mistake with color. So they're afraid that they don't know how to work with color. They're going to paint their room some color and they're going to hate it. It's just not going to work. And they don't trust themselves. So
Yeah.
the white beige thing is for people who don't really trust themselves to give themselves the gift of color.
Mm.
Right. So there's a little bit of like, these are the safe choices, right? I'm
Yeah.
going to
Like
say, I'm going to
non-committal.
live in yeah, white and beige. Everything's going to kind of match. But
Yeah.
imagine if someone's like always dressing in white and beige. Just think of that. Like what you begin to think of that person.
Right.
So that's what you're programming your own mind is like, I don't feel safe enough to play. I don't feel there's no like daring. There's no like, you know, and you can make a mistake. I'm not saying that you won't,
Yeah.
but there's like start to play with color in small ways. If
Yeah.
you're scared about color, work with lamps, work with pillows, work with the peel and stick wallpaper. Just get one strip of the peel and stick wallpaper, throw that up, see what you think.
Right.
It's not,
Yeah.
start bringing in, it doesn't have to be so serious. Start bringing
Yes.
in, like, if you get very serious and are afraid of making a mistake in your life, if you have a perfectionistic tendency,
Yeah.
so you prefer the safety of white and beige, begin to like just do one strip of wallpaper, live with that for a week. If you like it, do the whole wall in the peel and stick wallpaper, and then it's
Yeah.
not expensive. You could find it on Etsy. So
Right.
there's that not trusting myself, the scared kind of thing. And then the other false, in my opinion, narrative is like, if I live in a simple, clean environment, that means I'm really zen, right? And I like natural woods and whites, so it's like a zen, austere, minimal environment.
Yeah.
You know, and if you want your life to really be that way, then go for it. But there is something fun
Yeah.
about like living with stuff that brings you joy, that is a little outside of the norm. And it's trending in terms of trends. So that's number
Yeah.
two, the kind of the false zen kind of narrative about like, I will be zen if my house is zen,
Right.
like, if I'm minimal, then I will be zen. That's
Okay.
not necessarily the case, because it takes a lot of the play
Yeah.
away,
Mhm.
and I personally prefer play.
Yeah,
Um,
and also just bringing kind of that concept of self-development into your home. Like what would it feel like? Is this just because of perfectionism? What would it feel like if I let myself try something different? because that translates into a lot of our life. I feel like a lot of my clients are definitely going to be those girlies who are like, I wear white and black and that's it. You know what I mean? Are living in a little bit more of a perfectionistic mentality. And I think it's good to just challenge even just small things. Like you said, maybe it's just changing the accessories. Maybe it's just changing a little bit and seeing what that feels like for your nervous system and allowing the questions to come up of, oh, maybe I'm scared of doing it wrong, like doing it incorrectly, like doing it too much. Like maybe I'm scared of just making a mistake in general and allowing yourself to work through the self development of that.
Totally.
Mm.
And I personally feel like the white thing is borrowed from the Puritan kind of aesthetic. If you think of Puritan
Yeah.
like churches of like taking away all ornamentation so that you can connect with the spirit above. It's like taking away the juice of life. If you
Right.
look at like Buddhist shrines or Hindu shrines, that's not white. These people are very spiritual. They're all with saffrons and jewel tones and like gold up the wazoo, you know, because they're embracing life rather than that Western schism of I have to take every piece of everything out in order to be pure and perfect and like the good girl. So there's a lot of that in there, and it's trending away.
Yeah.
Trending away. So ladies, check if you're into the trend, like that white beige aesthetic is what had its moment.
Yeah.
And you know, just like you know, skinny jeans, we're not there anymore.
We're over
Unfortunately,
it.
we have to throw away or at least put them in the attic for when they come back in.
Exactly. What do you feel like is coming in style right now? Are you kind of starting to see the shift from the white and beige into something else?
Color. I mean,
Yeah.
you can't keep away from color too
Yeah.
long. Like people are right now, there's like a deep brick red that people are really into, like deeper tones that are color but grounded color,
Yeah.
because red doesn't have to be this super bright, like shocking red. Yes,
Right.
that has like fire energy. So if you want some fire in, get a hit of red. And there's a trending thing on TikTok of every room looks better with like something red in it. And
Mm.
it's true. But it's there are many kinds of reds. There are grounded, earthy reds, and then there's like orangey, fiery, super bright reds. So you
Yeah.
want to start thinking of like, how do I actually want to feel? Do I
Right.
want to feel solid and grounded? And I still love red, then go for a brownie brick red.
Yeah.
If I want to feel like I've been stuck in a rut and I want to like
Yeah.
really mix it up, go
Spice it
for
up.
a shocking red.
Yeah.
You know, right when you walk in the door, look at your focal points, which is
Yeah.
another powerful topic of focal
Yeah.
points.
Tell me about the focal point. So how do you determine like is there a focal point in a room before you create it or is it something that you create?
Um, yes, they're natural focal points in a
Okay.
room. So a mantle is a natural focal point.
Okay.
Think like you walk into a room, where does your attention go?
Yeah.
If it
Yeah.
has a mantle, it goes right to the mantle, right?
Right.
So when you walk in your door, the focal point is right when you what you see when you cross the threshold. The furthest point that you see when
Okay.
you walk into the door is the focal point. So when you're crossing the threshold into your foyer, pay attention to that. What do you see when
Yeah.
you walk through the door? And is that is a power spot because your attention is constantly feeding it,
Yeah.
whether you're conscious of it or not. So
Mm.
what's in that focal point? Is it abundant? Is it powerful? Is it like yummy? Does it say welcome home? Does it bring you joy? You want to kind of make sure that is what's happening when you
Yeah.
walk through the door. The focal point when you're sitting in your office is what you're looking at. What we already talked about that. The focal point when you're in your bedroom, when you walk through the door of your bedroom, what you see at the furthest wall when you walk through the door is that focal point. Then there's another focal point, which is what you see from your bed,
Okay.
right? You
Yeah.
spend a lot of time in your bed. What are
Yeah.
you looking at? Is it a
Right.
pile of laundry? Is it some kind of like random mishmash? It's like I see what you are looking at when you first open your eyes as
Yeah.
an altar. To treat it as it could be a secular altar. It doesn't have to have like Buddhas on it, you
Yeah.
know? It has to feel the way you want your day to feel, that you want your life to feel. You really need to start intentionally creating that. So that's a focal point. Your bathroom. what you see when you're sitting on the toilet,
Yeah.
focal point, right? You're sitting there, you may as well like
Create a
really
focal point.
it's something that no one talks about, but it is potent.
Yeah.
Also, when you're brushing your teeth, what is your mirror reflecting behind you? You want to start looking at what your mirrors reflect behind you, because that's how you see yourself. That's how you
Yeah.
frame yourself.
Right.
Those are focal points. So focal point is what you see when you walk through the door, and what you also see where you spend the most time. So when you're on your sofa, the focal point is what you're looking at when you're on your sofa. So begin to track your body and
Okay.
see where it spends the most time, and then what your eyes see when you are in that position.
So as I think about my home and this focal point concept, a lot of my focal points are mirrors. How do you feel about that? What do you think about that? There's a lot of mirrors. Like when I look out, when I'm sitting in my bed, it's like a gold ornate mirror looking right back at me. End of my hall, same thing. There's a mirror, bathroom, another mirror. There's like a mirror in front and a mirror in back. What do you think about that? What's the energetics there?
Well, in feng shui, they
Uh-huh.
say that you should not put a mirror across from your bed, because
Okay.
whatever a mirror reflects, you double. So you have to be aware of what the
Yeah.
mirror is actually reflecting, and kind of the
Okay.
sleeping position is a weakened position. It's not like the
Okay.
strongest position.
Uh-huh.
So they say to put in feng shui. I'm not a practitioner of it, but I actually really agree with this advice
Okay.
to put the mirror to the side of the bed, so that you could
Okay.
use it to look at yourself, but it's not necessarily
Okay.
reflecting you. And if you can't move it, you could cover it at night,
Okay.
with a beautiful piece of fabric, and see how that shifts your sleep.
Okay. I
I
can.
love mirrors at the end of hallways,
Okay.
because it elongates the hallway. I always think that's a great thing.
I love
Uh,
them so much. I have like that. I mean, you saw it when I flipped around probably, but I have like this ginormous gold mirror in my living room. I love like the luxurious feel of like the old golden mirrors so much.
yeah,
They make rooms look so much bigger.
I agree. I think it's very powerful. They just be aware with
Yeah.
every single mirror that it's going to double that which is in front of it. So if you're, having your royal codes in front of it,
Yeah.
great, it's going to double that. But if you're having scarcity codes in front of it, or if it's like reflecting a big mess or a bunch of like taxes, or unresolved like furniture that you're not that into,
Yeah.
or like a chair that needs reupholstering, or anything like that, it's just going to make it more. So you just want to it's just bringing awareness to it.
Okay. Good information. This is amazing. I feel like I'm already, like I said, thinking about how I'm going to move things around in my space.
Good.
I'm
That's,
really excited. So, what other things do you feel like are really common for clients, things that you talk about? Is there any other like big topics of when you walk into your home, when you walk into your clients' homes? Um, Anything that I haven't mentioned that you would consider?
oftentimes everything is facing a television. The
Yes.
orientation is facing a television.
Yeah.
And that is not the most encouraging. Like, I get it, and like if you have a media room, fine, but if you have a living room, you really want to start like kind of softening the focus on the television by creating a gallery wall or
Right.
wallpaper behind it or texture behind it, so the TV is not the only thing on that particular wall, and not
Yeah.
all the furniture is facing the television. The furniture should be relating to one another as if it
Yeah.
were people, right? In
Right.
conversation.
Yeah.
And another thing is dining room. Like, there's oftentimes too many little skinny legs. Like, the table has four chairs and 4 legs, and then there's 6 chairs, and all those 6 chairs have also legs. So there's like this whole leggy, crazy thing
Yeah.
happening in many dining rooms. If that's your dining room, you might want to consider a pedestal table or a table with thicker legs, or changing out the chairs to reduce the amount of legs. That reduces the cacophony in your life.
Oh, interesting. So can you kind of break that down a little bit more? So in other, maybe in a different word or other words, like how would you, like, what do you mean? Like, how could you see that playing out in someone's life?
So, like, if you walk into your dining room and you just see this kind of jumble of legs, and your life feels like that, you always want to
Okay.
see, like, what does my life feel like? And is this bothering me, or am I wanting to encourage it? So,
Yeah.
if your life feels like stressed and it feels like a cacophony and there's too many people wanting too many things, and like, you might want to start reducing the amount of legs, start
Okay.
reducing the amount of visual noise in your home,
Okay.
right? Like, start getting closed door storage, start giving yourself storage boxes with lids on them. So
Yeah.
you're not, you want to create containment,
Mhm.
buying trays rather than putting like a lot of things out on tabletops that are kind of messy and don't have any boundaries. You want to like start containing, like, how
Yeah.
do you feel contained?
Right.
Those are, you start asking these questions, like, what do you want more of in your life? It's not necessarily a situation. Yes, you want partnership, but why do you want partnership? Like, say you want partnership because you want uh to expand the experience of like sensual love in your life. Start bringing that in. I mean,
Yeah.
this we spoke about. Or if you feel like you want more security in your life because you've always felt insecure, begin to see where you feel insecure in your life. Like, for example, like lamps, when you turn on a lamp and the shade starts like jiggling around, you want to start paying attention to those little things.
Okay.
Or, for example, if your plants have gotten too big for their pots,
Mhm.
there's these
Yeah.
little things. You start like making these little changes. And here's another key: the universe, your will do a call and response with you. So you're going to change something in your home that's going to make your body feel different. It's
Yeah.
going to make your mood feel different. And then something different, like, you're going to gain self-worth from that. And then the universe is going to speak to you in the language of that expanded self-worth. And then
Right.
you want to really start understanding, like, I make this change and then the universe comes back to me with that.
Yeah.
That's outside of my previous manifestation range. Okay, so then now I'm going to do a little bit more of that. Okay, what does the universe say? So you want to start engaging in a call and response dialogue between what you do in your home, aka your laboratory, and
Yeah.
what happens on the outside, you
Yeah.
know and begin to start. Then you're going to start making wiser decisions for what to buy in your home,
Mm.
if you know what's going to happen, or how it's going to respond when you expand that self-worth.
Yeah, how it's gonna shift. That makes so much sense. I haven't experienced that, I feel like, with design yet, but I know I will after this conversation because of all the things I'm gonna be moving around. So I'll let you know. But I've experienced it in such a massive way with moving. So when I moved from my last apartment to where I'm living now, which so different. So my last apartment was like a shared home. Lots of people in the home. It was really like loud, small, really old home. I had a mold problem. It was very, very dark, like so dark. I hardly got any light there. And now I live in this loft and the ceilings are so tall. The windows are, I have only one window, but it's like the whole wall. It's very expansive. And when I moved here, my business actually grew like by 4 times like this. I wasn't changing, I didn't change my business model, was changing nothing about what I was doing. Um, but I just feel like the energy of me shifting to a space that was really expansive shifted everything.
Yeah.
So I could see how that could happen even just with design, like even with kind of, I love what you said about, it doesn't need to be this thing where you're like breaking the bank. It doesn't need to be this thing where you're like maxing your credit card out. Like you don't need to move to experience that. I
No.
probably could have experienced the same thing by creating more expansiveness by my choices within my last apartment.
Mm-hmm. Totally. It is such a profound difference that once you get wise to it and once you start becoming aware of it, it's like, whoa, I can't believe I didn't see this before.
Yeah.
So it's like you start engaging in an active call and response where you start lifting your self-worth
Yeah.
via the choices that you make. You start bringing your self-worth to the place that someone who has the thing that you desire would
Yeah.
have. You start lifting your self-worth, and then your manifestation range increases, and then you lift some more and it increases.
Yeah.
So it's just like it's the same as if you like work out at the gym and start eating well and start dressing in a different way. We all know that when we do that, our life shifts, things
Yeah.
start shifting. It's the same thing. It's the same thing with your home. And then not only does your life start shifting, but you get to live in a more beautiful, intentional space, which
Exactly.
then creates another feedback loop. So it begins to compound,
Yeah.
and that is yummy.
So yummy. It's so yummy. There's so many ways that I feel like we can see this if listeners haven't done this in their home yet. I know one of the biggest things for me is like getting dressed and getting dressed well every day, even though I sit in my home. Like I have video calls, I have meetings, I work from home. Some days I don't even leave the house, but getting up, making sure I get ready, putting on nice clothes literally shifts everything for me.
Mhm.
And it's the exact same thing with your home.
It's the exact same thing. It's really how we work as Eves,
Yeah.
as Eves, restored Eves, how
That,
we tend to work with our physical world. So
right.
yes, we can work with energy, and that's powerful and potent.
Yeah.
But Eve is really connected to the physical world, and you begin to work with with the physical world in a more magical, alchemical way, so that you begin to affect the physical world through the physical world.
Yeah, so amazing. Okay. I love this conversation so much. I feel like there's so many nuggets. And like I said already, so many things that women can take away from our conversation and implement like today. So thank
Mhm,
you for sharing everything. I cannot even wait to read your book. Congratulations that you're writing a book. That's amazing.
mhm.
Is there anything else you'd like to share with listeners before we hop off our call today? Where can we find you? What are you offering? How can they work with you? Anything.
Um, Well, you can find me at thespatialalchemy.com. That's my website, and you could take a look at my work. I'm always offering different things, different packages, different kind of little specials to work with me. So make sure you get on my mailing list for that, so that you're up with all the things that are happening, and like some newsletters with some tidbits that I share about my home, my life, and how you can make your home in line with what it is you're wanting in your life.
Amazing.
Currently, I have a really amazing $49 class called Program Your Home for Abundance. And you could, that's a really great introduction to my work of like how you create a home that begins to pull in more abundance into your life. And a lot of people who watch that, it's a 2-hour masterclass. Oftentimes they do a few private sessions with me,
Okay.
so that I can help them create
Customize.
something that is custom and bespoke.
Right.
So that's usually the way that people work with me.
Okay, amazing. I love that so much. Thank you so much for sharing all the things. And I will add the links to the show notes so everyone can find you really quickly and easily. And thank you so much for being on the podcast.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me, my dear.